Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, news story broke by the Detroit News that then President Donald Trump personally pressured 2 Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers to not sign certification of the 2020 presidential election, according to recordings reviewed by the Detroit News and revealed publicly for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, Lordy, there are tapes. Okay, this story is wild. I copy and pasted kind of the key information from it. There will be a link to that story in the description if you want to read the whole story. It's rather lengthy. On November 17, 2020, a phone call, which also included Republican National Committee Chairwoman Rona McDaniel, Rona Romney, other words, right? Trump told Monica Palmer and William Hartman, the 2 GOP Wayne County canvassers, that they'd look, quote, terrible, unquote, because, that's an adjective, if they signed the documents after they first voted in opposition and then later in the same meeting voted to approve the certification of the county's election results. "We've got to fight for our country," said Trump on the recordings. "We can't let these people take our country away from us." Rona McDaniel is a Michigan native and the leader of the Republican Party, said at another point in the call, "If you can go home tonight, do not sign it. We will get you attorney." So in other words, these canvassers aren't supposed to leave until they certify the election. And she's telling them, if you can somehow get out of there by not certifying it, we'll hire attorneys for you. At which point Trump added, "We'll take care of that." Palmer and Hartman left the canvassing meeting without signing the official statement of votes for Wayne County. And the following day, they unsuccessfully attempted to rescind their votes in favor of certification, filing legal affidavits claiming they were pressured. So they basically voted to approve the certification. They left, got lawyered up by Trump and McDaniel, and then tried to say, no, we were pressured to certify it. During an interview in September 2021, Palmer told the U.S. House's Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. That's the Liz Cheney January 6th commission. That, quote, she couldn't recall the exact words that Trump used on the call and whether he raised issues related to the election. You effing liar. I'm sorry. I think any of us, if we were canvassers, and I know that a couple of people, I actually have my brother on the phone for this one, and I know that folks here have worked as county election officials. If the freaking president of the United States called you and basically told you not to certify the votes, I think you might remember that. You just might, just because of the unusual nature of the request and who it's coming from. I believe she couldn't recall the exact words. I believe. I couldn't tell you the exact words I had with anybody I worked with today, or even what my exact words to Michelle were this morning when I said hello to her, getting her coffee. But you can get the gist of it. The recordings reviewed by the news, which covered 4 minutes of a longer conversation that could not have lasted more than 11 minutes, according to phone records, clearly show that Trump was focused on the 2020 election. Trump said Republicans had been, quote, cheated on this election, and, quote, everybody knows Detroit is crooked as hell, according to the recordings. How can anybody sign something when you have more votes than people? Trump asked the canvassers, according to the recordings. And about 13 hours later, Trump posted on social media regarding Wayne County, again saying there were more votes than people. And it's all recorded. There are tapes. Expect the James Comey, Lordy, I hope there's tapes thumbnails for this one, because it is relevant. All right, lots to throw on this one. This is going to be a long reading. Heck, at 4 minutes to just get through the intro. But as you can see, there's a lot of there. This is not a nothing burger. Okay, first off, let's ask about the energy around this revelation. How is this how is just the energy around this? How it's going to impact trials, how Trump's feeling, there's all sorts of stuff. But what's the energy around this revelation? What do we have? Four of Swords. This has been hidden. This has been hidden, and folks have been sitting on this for a while. This is kind of behind the scenes stuff. Folks have also had time to digest it. Ace of Swords. Yeah, this is kind of a new goal, a driving force in life. You got the Sword of Justice. What's underneath it? The sun. Oh, the truth's been exposed. Okay, so what this is saying is, okay, this tape has been lying dormant for a while. People, forgetting about what happened in Michigan. But now this has now been revealed, and all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of people asking a lot of questions about what happened here. The sword of truth is out, the sun is out, and now there's going to be questions for people as to what's going on. Expect a lot more reporting and digging going on in this. In the past, you have the King of Pentacles. Donald Trump basically trying to buy his way back to the presidency in this case. Offering the ideas, offering the values to these canvassers, and then offering to pay for their lawyers so that they would advance his agenda. Give me something of value and I'll protect you type of thing. Donald Trump's fingerprints are all over it, and his voice is all over the tapes. Current situation about this. This information is already... You got to understand, Jack Smith has been aware of this for a while, right? This information is already being investigated and fitted into the big picture of the January 6th trials. I would fully expect that this tape is already in Jack Smith's body of evidence going on. Now, interesting. Okay, so now you're evaluating. You're evaluating everything that's going on here. But I was also saying interesting because the first thought I got was Rona McDaniel overseeing the RNC and the fundraising that comes in from it. This is going to be huge because, and again, Ronna McDaniel already seems to have her mitts in with George Santos. And I think I was saying in the George Santos readings that, she's in a bit of trouble because, she was the one backing Santos and going to donors and getting him to back Santos by giving him her word on it. And now she's involved in this too. This woman is in trouble. This woman's in trouble, and Mr. Romney should be a little concerned about his daughter and what's going on with her. Okay, it's involved. The government's got this, but you can also look at this as like, this is Trump plotting another one of his plots to get himself installed. And here's Trump. Here's how he was trying to use this to get back into office as another stepping stone in his election interference claims. Looking at the value of it and saying, there's more votes on this Bush than there should be in this county as he tries to get back to the presidency. So again, there's that overlap of what Trump was trying to use for it and now how it's all falling out. Yeah, the government's got this. The outcome are the agreements. Okay, I would expect that if I were one of those two... Well, actually, one of the canvassers, I believe, is passed at this point. But if I were the canvassers, I would be signing... I would be, proffering and trying to get any plea deal I can to get my butt out of this sling. If I have to say that Trump is the one who pressured me, I'm more than willing to say that because it's recorded. But what we have here from, these folks willingly were helping Donald Trump. That's kind of a symbol for Trump on this one. But now, this thing is now recorded. And it's going to be used as evidence. So if you want to save your bacon, you better make a deal with somebody because this is not good. Again, Donald Trump eats your soul one bite at a time, and he starts at the edges and he works his way towards the middle. Good God. Okay. What kind of trouble are these canvassers in? We'll started building up to the more interesting questions, but we'll start with this one. And I believe it's in the article, but I believe one of them has passed. But if both canvassers were alive, even if only one canvasser is alive, if both were alive, if the canvassers, what are they going to do in this situation? This information's out, and obviously it's got to, just because the news agency and we found out today doesn't mean that the government hasn't had it for months, if not years, right? But what does what's going to happen with these canvassers? What are they thinking? What are they doing? What's the energy around them? This has been out. Working on backroom deals. Okay, is that with Trump, or is that with the feds? Okay, truth has been revealed. They had a role in this, and they were caught in that role with this. So now what do? Do you cut your best deal? You cut a deal with Trump. It didn't work out so well for you. Do you now cut a deal with the prosecution? Betrayal. I don't know if they've cut a deal. I think the energy around them is they got caught making a backroom deal with Trump. And the person in the article, they describe as at least the first conversation, the call was taken in a car with other people in a car. So likely one of the people in the car that they picked up was in the back seat or something. They recorded this conversation. So that's kind of a betrayal from their point of view, that somebody who they considered a friend or a confidant or, a fellow Republican or whatnot, recorded this conversation and let it loose. So that's where the betrayal is. And it caught them making backroom deals. But because it got released, that started the wheels of justice and the karmic justice. Truth is out there, and now they're going to have to plead their case that they were coerced, they were misled, they were lied to, they were betrayed. They had Trump gaga syndrome where they just were gaga about Trump, and now they're patriots again and would never do something like that. No, I think these canvassers are in trouble. I don't think they've cut a deal. The truth is out. But I'm not seeing anything in here that would suggest that they've cut a deal because of this card right there. So if they haven't, man, oh man, you are crazy. Hope you enjoy prison, because you're going to get to see what the inside of a prison cell looks like. Not to mention that that is basically perjury with your testimony to the January 6th committee. Absolutely, that would be perjury. Yeah, it wouldn't be perjury to say you don't remember the exact words, but you could clearly express what was said by the intention on it. They're in trouble. They may only get felony little perjury charges or something like that, because again, these are smallish fish in a large plot, but they absolutely should be chased down and prosecuted for something like this. Make a plea deal. Make sure you take a look at their apology letters before they write them. Okay, so we got those taken care of. Rona McDaniel. What is going on with you, girl? You seem to be all over the place. Corruption seems to just be following you like a stink on a skunk. Ronna McDaniel. How is this impacting you? Raising money. She's all about the money. She's all about raising money on this one. And again, she's focused on her work. Page of Wands, messaging, going out and messaging. I'm wondering if this is almost damage control. She's got a lot of work to do to explain what happened. I would expect that she might be out. You might see her out over the weekend on the conservative political shows discussing this and devaluing what that tape says. Yeah, they'll devalue it. They'll basically say something like, and you got your high priestess here. They're going to say something like, this was just Donald Trump being concerned about the election. He had his suspicions, and he wanted to make sure nobody was being coerced, and we were offering to make sure that if they were being coerced, we'd provide legal counsel for them. She will try to minimize it like that. But you know what? That's not how this game works. But that's what she thinks is going to be the good play here. This is going to be her. This will be her going out on the news shows this weekend, doing that. In the past, Queen of Swords. In the past, I think she probably used to make really good decisions, which is why she could work her way up through the Republican ranks, up to the chairwoman of the RNC. And again, in the past, but again, Trump has this way of eating away at your soul. It appears he successfully has consumed her soul as well. Current situation, King of Swords. Yeah, the Queen of Swords meet the King of Swords. Now she has to realize Jack Smith is out there and he has this information, and she is now in the web of the election interference, or maybe she didn't really realize how far in the web she really was in this. So now she has to go out and try and do some public relations damage control to try and get that messaging out in the public, so that if she argues this in court later, she would have all these Fox News and OAN and Newsmax interviews saying how this was all about just making sure there were free and fair elections in Michigan. Huge burden, though. There are tapes. Lordy, there are tapes. And then there's reactions. And you can have the full... Again, when you listen to the full tape, or as much as is recorded, it does not paint the same picture that she and Donald Trump are going to try and sell. She will have a huge, hard time trying to get out from underneath this. I don't think she will, to be honest. This is too much. If there weren't tapes, she probably could do it. But now you've got evidence that it is likely admissible in court. Oh, the truth is out there, baby. Yeah. You can't hide from the truth. That's the problem. This has been out and is exposed, and she may not have time to really come up with an adequate explanation for this. There's just too much out there at this point. She is in trouble. And she may very well, it looks like she's going to be facing, she's going to face charges for this. Again, if I were anybody in Trump's orbit, you want to play this card, you better cut your plea deals. You better become an informant. And yeah, you may sacrifice your political career, but what would you rather sacrifice, your political career or spend a few years in prison? Choice is yours. Daddy must be so freaking proud. I hope I have that right. I hope that is Romney's daughter and I'm not mistaken on that. Let me double check that real quick. My bad, niece of Mitt Romney. So I'm sure Daddy would be proud too, but I'm sure Uncle Mitt is probably so fiercely proud of his niece for this moment. What an embarrassment. Okay. Get you attorneys. Okay, let's see. What else do I want to throw on this one? Okay, how is... okay, will anything happen... well, we're saving Trump for the end, as you might have guessed. But I want to find out, for these two canvassers, I guess it's going to be Palmer, actually. Is there going to be any fallout from their testimony to the January 6th Select Committee? That's what I saw in this article. Neither Palmer, nor McDaniel and Trump, through spokespeople, disputed the summary of the call when they were contacted. Hartman died in 2021. Okay, so for... let me minimize this down again. Okay, so who is this person? Monica Palmer. Is she going to face any consequences for her testimony to the January 6th committee? because to me, she's committed perjury, and it's pretty darn obvious that she's committed perjury. There we go. Entertainment purposes only. There's that same card working on it. There's something that she and Rona McDaniel are linked in this regard. What are we linked? Nightmare. This might have been part of a plan that before she went to the January 6th committee, this was probably, you know what this might be? This might be standing for like a working plan. Ronna McDaniel, Donald Trump, and these folks had a working plan that they were working with. And that was part of that working plan, was to, not be too specific in your testimony. You'll remember Cassidy Hutchinson commented that when she was using lawyers for Trump, they were advising her to not lie, but not tell all the truth either. Just say you don't remember. Try and be a little bit vague on stuff like that, so you're not committal. It's pretty obvious that that's what happened here as well, at least from my point of view. They were working on a plan to help Trump get back in, advance the Republican Party. Everything's going to be fine. You can do this. This plan's foolproof. We got this. It's not fine anymore, is it? It's not fine. When she found out the feds were investigating this, her nightmares started. And now it's been released, and everybody gets to know about this skeleton that she has in her closet. You make a deal with the devil. You absolutely did. Again, Donald Trump eats your soul from the outside and works his way to the center. You volunteered for this. You could have said no. Morally, ethically, you should have said no. You even got home. You had a night to sleep on it, and you still chose to go forward with it. May you bear the consequences of your choices and your actions. But I'm asking about January 6th. So current situation, the magician. There could be, if the January 6th committee was still meeting, they could have called her back. There could, and at this point, obviously the committee's not going to call her back, but this could certainly lead to charges of lying to Congress. If they, if they work out some plea deal for her, they may forgive some other charges, but they might just give her, like, we're going to get you convicted of lying to Congress, which would be like, maybe 3 months in federal prison and a fine, and then you're let go. It's kind of a hand slap. Now, obviously being 3 months in a federal prison's not a piece of cake either, but it's better than 3 years. Strong emotions. She's gonna, she'll argue that, she's going to argue that she was lied to. She's enamored with Trump. He was convincing her to do that. I still think, though, that they're going to come after her for this. Emotions or not, they're going to come after her for this. Yeah, there's the government. So this is her, going before, in front of the January 6th committee, emotionally attached to the devil. They got this plan in place. Everything's going to be fine. All she has to do is not kind of really tell all the truth to the January 6th committee. But again, this plan is not a good one. And there should be consequences for this. And I think those they're mulling the consequences now. They're mulling those consequences. I do think they will probably... Well, it depends. They can get her on that, or they can get her on the actual phone call and their actions afterwards. That, I think, if they went after the actual case, that would be worse than lying to Congress. I guess it's now going to depend on if she is interested in cutting a deal with the feds. Part of the problem with these readings is that this stuff just seems like it's going to be, months, if not years from now, and we may never hear about this person again. And so it's not impossible. It's just difficult to track all the names and all the people. You don't even have a program, you know what I mean? You can't tell one player from the other without a program. There's no program to keep track of all these people. Maybe there will be one. Maybe somebody will put that out in a book. Okay, so she's not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. I think she will be facing some charges, whether it's, lying to the January 6th committee or responsible for their actions, trying to subvert those election results. There's going to be consequences. Now, those consequences, again, can be mitigated by a plea deal, but I think there's going to be a little bit more than a hand slap on this one. She's not in Georgia where first-time offenders can get off with probation and writing an apology letter. All right. Anything else on this one? Okay, so we've covered them. Now let's go after Donald, shall we? How's Donald Trump reacting to this news that this tape was leaked? And there's tapes. I mean, I'm sure he's known about it because I would assume that this was probably released in discovery, assuming that this tape is a part of the January 6th insurrection case. It may not be, but if it wasn't, then Trump's finding out now. If it was, then Trump's known about it for a while. I'm sure he's completely already forgotten about that perfect phone call. All right. Energy around Trump with the news of this phone call being released. Honestly, this has not been a banner week for Donald Trump, has it? Colorado's booted him off the ballot. Jack Smith is racing around trying to get him in front of the Supreme Court. He's trying to say, you need to delay the E. Jean Carroll case so that the Supreme Court can rule that presidents have absolute immunity, but then he doesn't want to speed up the Supreme Court case about presidents having absolute immunity because he knows he won't win it. Everything's about delay, delay, delay. But he's looking over his shoulder, just wondering what else is going to come out. And how do you deal with this one when the inevitable questions come? Knight of Cups. Yeah, he'll come. He'll do what he does best. He's going to lie. He and Ronna McDaniel are going to go forward and say this was just him trying to stop election interference. He'll come up with some lame excuse to offer up to the MAGA crowd and the right-wing media that no, there was all sorts of corruption in Michigan and they never did an audit, so the corruption wasn't ever revealed. But this is just, it's another spoke in the wheel of Trump's attempts to overturn the election. And in this case, there's a recording of him purposely trying to get people to not certify the election. So while he may be on social media and making the rounds saying it's no big deal, this is not going to stand up in a court of law. This is going to be extremely damaging in a court of law because he can't go forward and say that, other people were doing it or they did it on their own volition. I had no knowledge about this. He's on record. Going forward and telling these people to not certify the election based on what he's telling them. Knight of Wands in the past. So yeah, just trying to keep up his defenses about election interference. But you know what this is also showing? All the different things that he was involved in. And this is just one more spoke in the wheel of his plan to overturn that election and not hand over power at the end of his presidency. Current situation is the Star. The low energy of this is the hopelessness of his situation. It might be starting to dawn on him that he is pinned and hemmed in. And there may not be a way out of this in the court system. That or the Star could very well be that he is hoping that somehow the Supreme Court, his lawyers, it will get him out of the trouble that he's in. The problem is that how do we even put it? It's a double-edged sword. Anything that he does that gets him out of it fixes, 60% of it, but then there's 40% that doesn't get fixed by this. It's like 60% gets fixed, but 40% of it goes to 100% bad. So let's say he says, oh, presidential immunity. I can't commit any crimes as president. Okay, well, that gets you out of the Georgia case, and that gets you out of the January 6th case. And it even gets you out of this thing if this charge comes up. But this would be part of the January 6th case. But it does not get you out of the documents case in Mar-a-Lago, which means all these cases go away. But now the Mar-a-Lago case isn't competing with anything, and it goes forward. And you're guilty on that. That doesn't save you from this. So then the other thing is, well, it needs to go to the Supreme Court, but just not very quickly, as he tries to delay. But if you delay everything, all these court cases can continue to move forward. Obviously, Judge Chutkan suspended hers, waiting on the appeal. But if Judge Chutkan's case gets paused, it means the Mar-a-Lago documents case can go forward because there's nothing competing with it, which is what Jack Smith started doing with Judge Cannon. He's forcing her hand on putting dates down. So, you can stop some things, but you can't stop the other things because that gives them permission to go forward. He wants somebody. He's looking for Superman to rescue him, and there's nobody out there that can rescue him. Celebration. Yeah, I think it's like Rochambeau. Rocks, paper, scissors. You can do stuff to stop the rock. The rock can beat the scissors down, but then the paper will defeat the rock. So if you can block, you have to block paper. You're going to have to try and block one of these three things, but the other two will overcome. In the end of the day, there's three court cases of significance, and he can't get out of them. There's always going to be one that gets through. If you block, the Mar-a-Lago documents case, you still have the Georgia RICO case, and you have the January 6th case. You block January 6th, you still have Mar-a-Lago, and you've got the RICO case. There's too many cases going on. He can't get out of them. Somebody's worried about going to jail. This is not going to stop. He knows he's in trouble. He knows he can't stop. Even if the Supreme Court can stop some things, they can't stop all of them. He's going to jail. He knows he's going to prison at this point. This case, this revelation, this information, this is confirmed to him that, that's the smoking gun that was needed as far as January 6th case. You've already got the Georgia RICO case. That's going to be really problematic. But this is also really problematic for the January 6th election interference case, because he can't say it's not him on the recordings, because they can trace the calls back, and they've linked the calls back to Ronna McDaniel's phone, and you're going to have her testimony. He's going to be on the call showing that he's trying to coerce the results. This guy is screwed. He might be this might be his clue that he needs to start making his plans to leave. And it's, again, this is the star of the reading. There was a plan in place, and he wants to stick to the plan. Whatever that plan was, he wants to stick to the plan. Because maybe he thinks this plan's going to work. Maybe this plan had contingencies for this. But there was a plan in place that they all put together. But there's too many spokes in this wheel for this plan to work. This plan's not going to work. Get some cards in here. Okay, I'm really curious about that card. Yeah, we'll put that there. And get some shuffling in here. All right, 34 minutes. I knew this was going to be a long reading. He's in trouble. He is in trouble. This was not good. James Comey's just probably dying. Do you remember how Donald Trump always used to threaten that I record, because he used to record calls all the time. So he would always threaten that there's tapes. Are you sure you want to say that? Because I got tapes that say something differently. and people would call him on his bluff. He would never produce the tapes. And that led to the James Comey Lordy. I hope there are tapes. There's tapes, and this is not going to go well for Donald Trump because he may not use email, he may not text and stuff like that, and he may speak like a mob boss to other people to get him to do things. But in this case, he was on the. Notice he gets recorded on calls. Zelensky, the Georgia case to Brad Raffensperger, and now this one. He gets caught on the phone with his own words, putting his fingers in the pie. Okay. Does this case... how do I ask? Does this evidence... How does this impact Donald Trump? Does he stay? Does this cause a conviction? Does he flee the country? What's Donald Trump going to do with this? Or how does this impact Donald Trump's future? Maybe that's it. I think it impacts his future as he tries to leave, go overseas. Start a new life somewhere else. This wouldn't calm a court case. Yeah, it's like a willing sacrifice. It's like he has to leave. There's two. I think, again, I still support the idea that he's going to flee the country. Yeah, he's already thinking about it. I mean, that might be part of the plan. He is thinking about leaving when things are getting too hot and heavy around here. He is going to leave and get out of Dodge. And part of the problem will be that civil case in New York. The civil case is, that's his money. That's his cash flow. That's his power source. He needs that money to do all the things he does. Now, that civil case is wrapping up, and he can't have a business license anymore in New York. He has all his stuff in accounts, and they're going to have to liquidate. Now they're trying to fight and delay that, but he's going to have to liquidate all his assets. He's going to lose all his possessions, and he's going to have to pay his loans back. He's not going to have a lot of money left over after that. And then there's going to be all the lawsuits, all the civil suits that are coming after this guy, E. Jean Carroll, not the least of them. So once he doesn't have money, his reason for staying in the United States is to protect his finances and maybe become president of the United States where he could get himself out of his criminal issues. But if he loses all his money and the criminal issues are coming forward, there's not a whole lot of reason to stay in the U.S. because where you're going to end up is in a prison cell. So he may end up leaving at this point and going to someplace else. It's like not a willing sacrifice, but it's like, oh, I just had to go over here to clear my head type of thing. But it's also like a martyr type thing. I just had to go because they were going to throw me in prison. Let's see what's in the past. Okay, it's going to be about his backroom deals, the shady money, stuff like that was going on. The lies he told with January 6th and the election lies and stuff like that. This is, this information this is a tower moment for him. This is really going to seal the deal with Jack Smith's case. The Supreme Court obviously could rule that presidents are kings and he doesn't have to go to trial, but I think they're not going to do that. And so he's going to have to go to trial on this case, and this is some devastating evidence for him. The High Priestess. He might think of this as being the smart play. What the smart play is, you can stay here and take your penalty, your punishment, or you can try and be smart and get out. I don't think fighting it's going to do it. And maybe he gets some help, or maybe he tries to blame Ronna McDaniel for it and he was innocent on it. He could try to do that because that would be him, and get him getting out of so maybe that could be it. Him getting out of troubled water by finding a willing sacrifice. Yeah, all of us were on the call. Me and Rona McDaniel, and then these election workers. It wasn't me. This is Rona McDaniel's idea. It was her idea all along. You should be punishing her. The courts aren't going to have that, though, if that's the case. I think he's going to flee. He's going to try and get out because the long arm of the law is coming for him. He's making his plans. Can he get out? I don't know. I mean, this comes up in the comments every time I say it. It comes up with the Secret Service is with him. Would they prevent that? Well, yeah, they would if they knew he was leaving. I mean, I'm sure when he goes to the bathroom, they don't go in there with him, you know, to pull the chain and wipe his poopy bottom. I'm sure that doesn't happen. Because he doesn't have to go to the bathroom. He's got diapers. You know, I'm sure he can find moments of privacy. The question is, when he finds his moments of privacy, is he able to slip away for a short period of time without them knowing about it and getting out? You know, if there was a helicopter waiting or something along, or a car waiting or something, you know, who knows? Who knows? But I don't think Trump is planning on sticking around. This is kind of a nail in the coffin. And I don't think he's planning on sticking around to face the consequences. Trump is never anybody to stick around and face consequences. You know, maybe that high priestess, he thinks he can fight this and delay this more in the courts. That is a possibility. Try to get it tossed out as information that can't be allowed in the courts. That could be what that's happening as well. He may not leave. He may try and do damage control by saying it's illegally recorded or something like that. Make it inadmissible. But right now, as it stands, things do not bode well for that man. This is a big deal. Okay, I think I've talked your ears off long enough on this one. Thank you for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for all your kind words and everything you do to help feed the YouTube algorithm so my videos make it out to a wider audience. To new viewers and new subscribers to the channel, welcome. Glad you found us. Hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.